Hello students, and we're going to be starting Unit 2 now. So we start out with Unit 2. This first one, Lesson 1, is called Planning for a Pizza Party. And so we'll just go ahead and dive right in on this one. What we start out here is to say, let's write expressions to estimate the cost of a pizza party. Alright, well, here are some letters and what they represent. All costs are in dollars. Okay, remember I talked about units? Here we go. Dollars is a unit. Now they have letters here. Now sometimes you'll see the word letters. What they're really trying to impress upon you is these are known as variables. All right, you can adjust the cost of the main dish. You can adjust the number of side dishes. You can adjust the cost of each dish, and you can adjust the total cost of the meal. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to go through this and make sure that everything starts to make sense with this. All right, now. So we have to go first. It says discuss with a partner. What does each equation mean in this situation? Okay, so M. What is M? M is the cost of the main dish. All right. So this cost here, it says M equals $7.50. All right. Well, the main dish is $7.50, but here's the important thing. It's $7.50 per dish. All right. That's the units that I'm talking about here. You have dollars per dish. All right. Now, when it goes down to here, M is the cost of the main dish, and it starts out here being equal to S, which is the cost of a side dish, plus $4.50. So what they're doing now is they're comparing the cost of the main dish and the cost of your side dish, and the difference being you have to take the side dish, you have to add $4.50 to it in order to get to the cost of the main dish. All right. So this one, N times S. Well, N, remember, if there's nothing in between here, like a plus, a minus, a division sign or something like that, you have to assume that you're being that multiplication is actually occurring here. So NS stands for the number of side dishes times S, which is the cost of the side dish. So this is really important here. Okay, so N is the number of side dishes. So the units on that one, let's just look here real quick, because you have to make sure that you understand this. Okay, so when you have NS equals 6, what they're trying to get here is N is the number of side dishes. So you're going to actually write down there N side dishes. All right, and I'm going to put, these are called railroad tracks. Get used to using these. All right, these are just a continuous fraction. And what you have to realize is that N side dishes, it has a denominator. It's just simply 1 in this particular case. All right, we can just order it in this direction. And then S stands for, represents the cost of a side dish. So the cost of the side dish, all right, is going to be, let's see, if you look up here, we don't actually have a number for it. So we're going to go dollars. All right, that's the side dish. All right, there's that, and it's going to be dollars per dish. All right, and it's going to equal 6. All right, so the number of side dishes times the dollars per dish is going to equal 6. Now, here's the thing: you have dishes down here, you have dishes up here. Those units are going to cancel. So what units are left? Well, just the dollars. So this is actually $6. That's the important thing to get out of that. That's that example. Now you go on to this next one. You have M plus NS equals T. So all these variables in here. So what are they actually going through? M, which is the cost of the main dish. So let's write this thing down. M plus NS equals T. What's this actually saying? All right. M being the cost of the main dish. So that's going to be in dollars, all right, plus NS, we already talked about that. That's going to be ultimately in dollars, all right. That's what this thing right here, that's that thing right there, all right. And we're going to be adding these, and then we get the total, the T here, which stands for the total cost of the meal. That actually has to be in dollars. So here's the thing. you're going to have to make sure that whatever units you get up here and whatever units you get here will produce a unit, which is just simply dollars. You can only add dollars and dollars, all right? If you have meters and meters, then you can add them. You can't add meters and seconds. Wrong units. Different units. Can't do that. It's the old adage where you have to add apples to apples and oranges to oranges. That's the idea here. You have to make sure that you have continuity amongst those units so that you'll get a correct answer. All right? So that's the big thing to pick out from those. And again, M just stands for the cost of the main dish plus the number of side dishes times the cost of a side dish equals your total that you're going to have for that serving. Write a new equation that could be true in this situation. All right? Well, if M is going to be staked as 750, all right, so what do we have here? Well, I know that this is up here, this $7.50, right? That's the M right here. So $7.50 has to equal the cost of the side dish plus $4.50. Okay? Now, if you look at this, you only have one variable, and we need to solve for the variable. To solve for S, what do we need to do? That's the question. How do I get this all by myself? Now, some of you should be able to do this math in your head, and frequently you do this in your head. We're going to have to make sure that we know how to do this mathematically correctly. So how do we do this? Well, I have some steps I'm going to be sharing with you on how to solve algebraic problems. And what we have to do is we have to learn to kind of look at these equations and try to figure out how to unravel them, all right? Because right now you have a bunch of stuff together here and ultimately I'm trying to solve for S. So if you look, what's happening between the S and the 450? Well, we're doing addition. And the question comes about, how do you undo addition? Well, you undo addition with subtraction. So if you want to get S all by itself, which is the goal here, all right, you want to solve the equation for the unknown. That's the unknown. You want to solve for it. How do you do it? Well, you got to get rid of this thing right here, and you want to put it on the other side of the equation. So how do we do this? Well, since it's being added, I need to subtract it. So how do I do that? Well, I go minus 450 and minus 450. Now you notice I do the same thing on both sides of the equation. You have to. To maintain equality, whatever you do to the left, you got to do to the right. It's that simple. All right? Now, if I have this side, I have S plus 450 minus 450. The only thing that I have left on this other side is S. That's it. Poof. These two cancel. And that side, you now have the S isolated all by itself. And then on this side, you can just simply do the math. $7.50 minus $4.50 is $3. So at this point, you have solved for the value of S. S is solved for now. So in your book, if you'd like to, you can write, being that you get this, you know that M is equal to $7.50. We just went through and we solved for S. What's S? Well, it's $3. Okay? We figured that out with our little bit of math. Let's go on to this. All right? Let's see if we can solve this. We've gotten this one done. We've solved for this. And now that I have S, I can now solve this equation for N. All right? So if you look at that one, what do we have? Well, you have NS equals 6. Now you're trying to solve for N. Makes sense? All right? So that's the number of sides times the cost of a side dish. But it equals altogether $6. All right, so let's take this equation. Now a lot of you would say, well, let's just go and throw the 3 in there. Tut. Wait. Your best way to work with these is to first solve for the unknown and then substitute. All right, if you do this otherwise, you're going to get all jumbled up. One step at a time. When you get to have a doctorate in mathematics, you can do it any way you want. But until then, the way to do this so that you fully understand it is you want to take these equations and you want to solve for the unknown and then substitute. The last thing you do is substitute. All right, so if you look at this, I got to solve for N. That's the thing I'm going to try to solve for now. Well, what's happening between the n and the s? Well, since there's no addition, subtraction, division, or anything there, you can assume that there's multiplication. And how do we undo multiplication? Well, we use division. That's the opposite. That's what's called the inverse function. So when you consider addition, the inverse function of addition is subtraction. When you consider multiplication, the inverse of that is going to be division. Later on, you'll talk about things like powers. When you take something to a power, right, you can undo that by taking a root. Thus, if you square something, you can take the square root. When you get to exponential functions, you perhaps have heard this, exponential growth or exponential functions. You undo that with logarithms. When you get to that, that's what's going on. You are doing an inverse. You're going and putting everything in reverse gear to try to solve things. Eventually, when you become seniors, you'll be taking calculus. And in calculus, we deal exclusively with new things called operators. And one takes you forward, the other takes you back. Derivatives take you forward, and integration, or also known as antiderivatives, take you backwards. So remember that whenever you have mathematics, you always have if you have a forward gear, you got a reverse gear. And you have to make sure that you know how to do those reverse gears. All right? Now, let's do some division. All right? I'm trying to solve for n. I got to get that all by itself. That means s is right here, and it's tagging along. We got to move it. Well, how do I move it? I have to undo multiplication, so I got to divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by s. And what happens over here? N times s divided by s, well, that just poof, goes away. And now you successfully moved it over to this other side. So what does n equal? Well, n equals 6 divided by s, so I got my $6 here, right? Now, what am I dividing it by, right? This unit here is $3, but there's more to this one. It's actually $3 per dish. $3 per dish. So you're actually dividing by $3 per dish. But what am I actually doing here? This is just a number. It's 6 divided by 1. That's what it is. And then what do you got down here? You have a fraction within a fraction. You're dividing by a fraction. What do you do when you divide by fractions? Well, you have to do the reciprocal and then multiply. So I'm going to rewrite this now with that in mind. So I'm going to have $6, and there's going to be a 1 underneath it just to go and fill the space. And when I divide by this fraction, now there's $3 down here, and I have the unit up there. So I have up here, it's $3 per dish, but also realize for each dish, it's $3. All right? And what happens? Well, the units of dollars cancel, and what are you left with? The number of dishes. And what is n supposed to be? The number of side dishes. That's what we have. So again, by following along with the units, you can actually explain how we get the units. The units didn't just magically appear. They were there all along. So make sure that you use the units so you can solve for these things. Now, if you look at this, what is 6 divided by 3? Well, hopefully you'll be able to figure out that's 2. And of course, the units are dishes. All right. So that's another thing that you got here. How many dishes do I have? I have 2 dishes. Notice that I am putting in units here. $7.50, $3, 2 dishes. Keep your units with you, okay? So now we've taken this one, put it in and solve for this one to find the s. So that one's done. And then I went to here, but now that I know the s, I can solve for the n, so that one's taken care of. And then I have this equation down here, which is just a combination of everything. M, N, S, and T. Well, do you know M? Sure do. Do you know N? Yes. Do you know S? Yes. I can now solve for T, and they're nice enough to have put T all by itself. Right? And so I don't have to solve for T. T is solved for. T equals this combination of other variables. So what am I going to do? I can now, since it's solved, now I can substitute. So let's go ahead and do that substitution. All right. So we're going to start by writing out your equation, and you're going to do some substitution. What's M? Well, M is $7 plus, what's N? N is 2 dishes. 2 dishes. And when we multiplying it by S, which is $7 per, or $3 per dish. $3 per dish equals your total. So let's just figure this thing out here. That's in dollars, so this has to be in dollars because I am adding it. And you'll notice that the dishes cancel. So now what do you have? Well, you have $7.50. And 3 times 2 is 6. The units are dollars. And that represents your total. So if you add 6 to 750, you'll get $13.50. And that is your total. That's T. So T is now $13.50. Right? So that is basically how you do this stuff. Right? We're going to do step by step. Key points here: use your units. It's going to help you to understand how to do this. Make sure that you actually add things that are supposed to be added or subtracted from each other in line. Don't be afraid of using more expressive units. I can put out side dishes. I can put in dish or dishes. All right. Use a unit that you can keep track of that makes sense to you. And so there, we have pretty much solved this. Always remember that you take an equation and you solve for the unknown and then substitute. Don't just dump numbers in there and hope for the best. Solve for the unknown first and then substitute. Okay? And we move along here. How much will it cost? Imagine your class is having is having a pizza party. Work with your group to plan what to order and to estimate the party would cost. All right? So if we look at this was something that we did in class. And so we had to figure out the number of people in the class. We had to figure out how many slices per person we're going to have. And then for the toppings, you might have like 14 people. In your case, it would be 7. You figure like 3 slices per person. Could be 4. Whatever. You just whatever you plan. All right. So if you have 14 people and you have 3 slices per person, that means that 3 times 4 is 48. So let's look at this. What was the units for 3? Slices per person. Those units. 3 slices per person. All right. And then they're multiplying it by 14. Well, the 14 is the number of people or persons. So we multiply that by 14 persons or 14 people. What units cancel? Well, persons cancel. So that tells you right there. 14 times 3 is let's see, they got 48, but I'm pretty sure 14 times 3, that's 12, carry the 1. It should be 42. So we have 42 slices that we have to figure out. All right. So this is a little bit of a mistake here. 42 is what that should be. All right. Now you think about this. One pizza is 8 slices. So let's go on to the next little step here. You have 42 slices. All right. And you need to figure out how many pizzas you're going to actually order. Because you don't order pizza by slice. You order it per pizza. All right. Now if you have 42 and you say 1 pizza gives you 8 slices. All right. Could you also say 8 slices for every 1 pizza? Yes. And you would use this if the problem called for it. But I know I need to use this form of this fraction. Why? Because I have slices up here. I don't want slices. I want pizzas. So I have to put it in this form so that the slices will cancel and I'll be left alone with pizzas. Okay? So you got your little map right here, and you simply cancel the common units, and it tells you how many pizzas. Then you think to yourself, 8 and 42. How many times does 8 go into 42? Well, 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 6 is 48 slices. So we know that this comes in somewhere between 5 to 6 pizzas. Right? It's okay to do the mental math and do some estimations. It's okay. That way I always encourage my students to estimate what they think the result might be. And then you go from there. Right? If you come up with 3,000 pizzas, it's like, wait a minute. I'm feeding 14 people. I don't need 3,000 pizzas. How many do you think you would need for 14 people? Well, 5 to 6 pizzas makes sense. Now, if you ordered 5 pizzas, so 5 times 8 slices per, that's only 40 slices. That's not enough. Somebody's going to be going hungry. So you might, if you go through this and you do the division, it'll be 5 1/4 pizzas. Well, you can't order 1/4 of a pizza. You'll have to round up and get 6 pizzas. And will you have leftovers? Probably so, but you never know when you're just doing an estimate. So at a bare minimum, you'll need 5 1/4, so you have to round up to 6 just to ensure that you have enough pizza slices for everyone. All right? And so, then we move on. All right, the next little part here says, write down one or more expressions to show your group's cost estimate and how it was calculated. Okay? Well, we know that there's for every one person, we need 3 slices. So S is the total number of slices. And then we say if we have 3 people, or 3 for every one person, you have 3 slices, and each slice or each pizza is divided into 8 pieces. You have Z, which is number of pizzas. All right, and so there's some more expressions that you could use to calculate this. There's any number of ways to calculate this, but this is a good one. You go from people to slices, and then slices to number of pizzas. You have to have some kind of mechanism to figure that out. All right. 3A. In your expressions are the quantities that might change on the day of the party. Which ones? Well, people might call in sick, or they might bring a friend. You're just estimating 14 people, so the number of people could change. That's perfectly possible. And if you change that number, then you change that number. And if you change that number, then you're going to have to go and change the number of pizzas. All right? So things could change with that. It says rewrite your expression replacing the quantities that might change with letters. All right? And so they changed this one. Right? And so they get the total cost down here. And so this again is just something that you can come up with. It's nothing cast in stone, right? But that's the main thing there. The thing that you should realize is what's going on here. Let's see, might be changing letters. All right, and so here they just took out the 3P, this part up here, and they just reinserted an S up in here. So that's where they get the S. So you have to figure out the number of slices that you use divided by 8, and that gives you the number of pizzas. All right. So now after this it goes on to 1.3, but I'm going to stop this here, and then we'll pick this up at 1.3.